Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to the Water Bear podcast. So, we are on season 3, episode 3. So, which is really appropriate because I feel like if you know anything about Eric Seats and you follow him, his handle on Instagram, which I will showcase here at the bottom, has 3. So I mean, hey, we just got 3s going all over the place. So I'm gonna talk for a little bit longer of an intro than normal because he messaged me right before this and his flight got delayed. So hopefully he'll still be able to join us, but he may be a tad bit late, but that is okay. So if you have not already followed him, make sure you are following Eric Seats, my guest for this evening, at the account that's flashing there on Instagram and on TikTok. So we already have one comment. So Tylen has joined and said, "Let's go." Yes, yes. Thanks so much for tuning in, Tylen. Thanks for subscribing and everything too. Really, really appreciate it. Hope you enjoy the show tonight. So before we get started, just a few kind of housekeeping rules in case this is maybe your first time. Again, welcome to the Water Bear podcast. If you like what you see and what you hear, don't forget to join the family and subscribe and make sure you hit that notification bell too. So you'll be notified of future content that comes through for the podcast. Also, you can catch the drip every Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And if you have not already done so, you can follow me for more content on my social media platforms on Instagram and on TikTok that are rolling across the ticker there. So, one thing that I always mention if you watch the show, you know that I always open up the show with a famous Aquarius and a famous person of the sign that is joining the show as well. So I will go ahead and do that true to form. So a famous Aquarius, in case y'all maybe did not know, is Ed Sheeran. He is an Aquarius. Also, a famous Cancer who I have on the show, of course, tonight, Eric Seats is a Cancer, is Vin Diesel. So I'm not sure if you all maybe knew that or not, but he is a Cancer. So I want to give y'all a little bit of background history as to how I first met Eric and kind of how we first started talking. So our first conversation was actually, it's been like 8 years now. So back in 2014, I won't name the website, but there was a website that I used to do music reviews. I used to do them a lot on my own. I have my other channel, my sister channel, which is called The Frozen One on YouTube, and it's Poetic is the name there. But if you get a chance, check that out too. I do a lot of music reviews, vinyl reviews, things of that nature. But some people kind of caught wind of some of my videos and they said, "Hey, do you want to blog for our site?" And I said, "Yeah, of course, cool." Because, at that time I was just really into, anything and everything about music. I've always loved learning more about entertainers, more about the writing, producing process, all the behind the scenes information. So with that, I started writing blogs for them. And then I was starting to get paid to write certain blogs or do certain interviews. So Eric Seats was one of the people that I interviewed. So he has a very extensive bio. I mean, and there's more things now that he has that are, tacked onto this that, it would just take me a long time to go through all of it. I'll just say that. But I'll just kind of give a brief synopsis of his bio here and a little bit of a rundown. And if you all, I definitely encourage you all, this is an interactive show. So if you have questions or comments, definitely feel free to leave them here in the chat and I will put them out here. So yes, I totally agree, Tylen. Yes, a legendary producer for sure. Definitely agree with that. So for those that don't know Eric, He's an accomplished drummer, a professional drummer to the Stars. So one of the stars that he plays for is Patti LaBelle, in case you all don't know that. He is a father of 2 daughters. He's a mentor, an executive producer of the show The Next Great Drummer, basically where they are searching for an aspiring drummer to win a competition that will be a national competition and then go on further to be an international drum competition. So he's busy with that. He's also a part of Key Beats. So if you remember in the early 2000s, there were a lot of songs that Key Beats had their fingers in or their hands in. So the group, or the duo rather, was established in 1997, made of Rapture Stewart and Eric Seitz, tonight's guest. So together they have worked with so many artists. I mean, Timbaland, Missy, Aaliyah, Genuine. We're going to talk tonight specifically about some of the work that he did with Aaliyah, Destiny's Child too. He worked with Destiny's Child as well. He also worked with 702. Arguably, I would say, you know, he had a hand in producing their biggest song, which is Where My Girl's At. So he had help in doing that. A little known fact that I don't think too many people know. So a lot of people know Destiny's Child's Independent Woman, which is probably, I would say, their biggest song from the Charlie's Angels soundtrack. But the crazy thing about that is, if you've listened to the Survival album, or you maybe heard like some of the deep cut tracks from Destiny's Child, there is an Independent Woman Part 2. Now, in my opinion, the Independent Woman Part 2 is way better than Part 1. It almost sounds like this kind of eclectic circus. It's just, I don't know, you got to hear it. I actually played a clip of it if you follow me on social media on one of my reels on Facebook and as well as on TikTok. So yeah, make sure y'all check it out. It's like really, really dope. So on top of all of this, Eric also is in the works, and I really want to definitely talk about this when he comes on, in the works of doing a Broadway musical called Timeless. So make sure that y'all check that out as well. And yeah, we're excited to have him. I'm excited to have him on the show this evening. Again, hopefully he's able to make it, because I know he did have a switch on his flight. But in the meantime, just curious, as far as cancer goes, if we do have any people that are cancers, or if you, whatever your sign is, even if it's not cancer, you can drop that in the comments, and, you know, we can shout out and maybe even have a little bit of a discussion back and forth here about cancers and, you know, other zodiac signs as well. I'm an Aquarius. So this show was birthed from a discussion that I had on another podcast that I was on, where I said that I might need a little bit of time to retreat if I'm having a situation, especially in a relationship, where maybe it's a heated moment or something like that, that I might need a little bit of time before I respond. And I said, I don't know why I messed around and said I might need 5 days. I'm not saying I'd be mute in the 5 days, but I might need 5 days before I can actually address the topic at hand. And I'm telling you, all hell broke loose. On that show, I was really kind of known as the middle of the road guy. A lot of things were kind of like, oh, well, it depends. You know, that's really how I feel. I do think that situations aren't cookie cutter. Tyler's laughing at me. A lot of situations, they're not cookie cutter. It really just, it does. It depends on the situation, and that really determines how I might react to it. And yeah, people did not like that. They were like, oh, well, you know, who's going to be waiting around 5 days for you to make a decision whether or not you want to talk. And it's not that, but I do feel that, which I think is a very mature trait, to kind of sit back and assess the situation a little bit before you get a chance to make a judgment. Um, so, um, so yeah, so that's how this show got started. I started looking up things, and I saw this common thread with how people responded to Aquarians, specifically Aquarian males. Is that a lot of people say that Aquarius males are hard to read emotionally. I don't really think that I am, but I will say that through doing this show, um, through things like therapy and things like that, I've been able to see myself in a different light and see, okay, maybe what these people are saying, maybe I'm not that, but I can see how they came to this conclusion based off of, what I may be projecting or what I might be, giving off to them. So feel free, like I said, to leave your birthday in the comments, so we can, definitely do that. So one game that I play on here for people, and definitely will have Eric answer this question, is what would your sign be as a specialty drink? So I'll ask him when he comes on here as well. But if you're in the chat right now, definitely feel free to drop in. If you had to have your sign as a specialty drink, what would that drink be and why? So very curious to see what you say. Oh, okay. So Tyler, May 25th. So you are a Gemini. Okay, cool. I really click well with Geminis. Geminis and actually Cancers. I click pretty well with. The next week's episode, believe it or not, actually will feature a Gemini. So very cool, very cool. So yes. So what would you be? So I'll say to you, Tyler, and to anybody else that's watching, what would your specialty drink be if you had one? What would you come up with? And I'll kind of start it off, and I would say that mine would be something like a mojito or a margarita, maybe like a pineapple margarita that's spicy, like a little bit of jalapeno, maybe a little bit of mint, just because it's different, something that you typically wouldn't find on the menu. I think that really kind of embodies Aquarius. And Tyler says, okay, so Gemini is the best and most hated sign. Well, I don't know about the best, but y'all one of the best, but no, I'm just playing. No. But no, Geminis are very cool. Very, I would say very hard to pin down and oftentimes figure out, because a Gemini has very varied interests, I feel. A Gemini usually has very kind of eclectic taste too. And sometimes their decisions, I feel, kind of go with the wind, which I can definitely understand that, because Gemini is an air sign like myself. So last week we had another air sign on as well, Libra. Tori and Tim, she was the guest for last week's episode. So if you missed that, go ahead and check it out. But yes, Geminis are definitely cool people. So next week we'll have a female Gemini on the show. So that'll be really interesting, because we've had a male Gemini last season. So this will be the first time that we've had a female Gemini on the show, which I feel like the female Geminis catch a little more heat than the males do. Just my personal opinion. But y'all let me know if I'm wrong or not. And so Tylen says his drink would be water. I'm joking. I don't drink, but a mixed drink with two different ingredients to go along with the Gemini twin trait, if that makes sense. Oh, okay. Yes, that totally makes sense. So yes, so if I'm understanding that correctly, a drink that would really represent your sign would be something that has a duality about it, or something that maybe has two sides. So maybe not this simple, but maybe something like they have margaritas and maybe there's a strawberry and a mango flavor. So like both of those that kind of coexist together. So see, I'm here. Air sign. I get it. I get it. Yes, that is it. So we're going to go ahead. I'll just kind of give a few things here and some of the questions or things that I was thinking of presenting to Eric when he joins. Just in respect of everyone's time, if he's not on in the next maybe like 10-15 minutes or so, then we may have to wrap it up and reschedule this one. But as far as his music goes, and specifically Aaliyah, definitely want to talk about her. She's one of my favorite artists, and I feel that now a lot of y'all might not like this when I say it, but I'm just going to tell the truth. I love Beyonce. She is great, and I think she is a wonderful artist. But I do feel like that Aaliyah's death was it really kind of cut short her rise, if you will, because I feel like she was really, really about to take off. I mean, she was already popular, but I feel like she was about to take off even more. And I feel like had she still been around current day, I feel like she, she would be, kind of the one to beat right now. Because she just had this really kind of like undeniable swag to her. So her final album, the Aaliyah, the self-titled album, that one I would say if I had to pick is really my favorite, and which is interesting that Eric was going to be on the show, because I've definitely wanted to talk, and we talked about it before, but just kind of get an updated view. Now, we have, again, 8 years later, fast forwarded from our last conversation, where or just to see how he feels, because I feel like Aaliyah's legacy is one that never dies. You have some artists that pass away and, their legacy kind of fizzles out with it. But I feel like Aaliyah's has just gotten stronger and stronger and stronger. And so I totally agree, Tylen. He says the whole industry would be different if she were still here. She was too much of a trailblazer. I agree. I agree. Even the way she dressed, she was kind of like I guess you could say, maybe like a prissy tomboy, if you will. The only female artist that I can think of that matched her kind of like in the swag department, or maybe who she may have even drawn from a little bit, I would say would be TLC. But outside of them, collectively, and I'd say maybe Janet Jackson too at times, because she's feminine, but she can also be very tomboyish too at times. So yeah, I think she would have really, really taken off. I loved the Aaliyah album. Like I said, that was my favorite one. The Red album, that's what the streets call it. Same thing. They're pretty much interchangeable. But I love that album. I thought that it had some of her best work on it. I loved Rock the Boat. Even at the height of that song, when a lot of people were like, oh, I'm getting tired of this song because they just wore it out. It was just, you could not escape it at that time. And then especially when she passed away, it just seemed like it got even bigger. And Tylen says she is the standard for the new R&B females. Yeah, I totally agree. I would say that even SZA's style a little bit reminds me of Aaliyah. Not her singing style, but image wise, I feel like it's a little bit of Aaliyah, especially with this new album that she has out now. But so, you have Rock the Boat, Loose Rap, It's Whatever, I think was another key beat song. One song that I'm very interested to learn more about the inner workings of, and it looks like we might not be able to get Eric on tonight, unfortunately, but I'm definitely interested to get his take on how the song Where My Girls At came to be for 702 and how that process looks when you have to shop a song around to multiple artists. Because the story that I heard was that, and Tylen says, yes, I agree. SZA, right, Normani, Tiana Taylor, these are all females who have taken a page from Aaliyah's style book, I would say. But with the song Where My Girls At, that song and the beat is like alone. There are certain songs I would say like Rock the Boat, Where My Girls At is another one. But you really don't even have to have anybody singing on those tracks. I mean, just hearing the song enough or just the instrumental, it's like, okay, this is a vibe. That song was originally meant for TLC. And in T-Boz's, that's so funny. That's what, yep. Tylen just said that. I heard Missy wanted to give that song to TLC. And that is true because T-Boz talks about that in her memoir. And she basically said she didn't want the song because she felt like they would have sounded like a lot of other groups at that time, which I can understand to some degree. But at the same time, I would have loved to hear how they would have recorded that song, especially if Left Eye would have been able to rap on it. I think it would have really taken on a new shape. So one thing I would love to ask Eric is, obviously that is true that the song was meant for TLC, but what is the process like when an artist rejects a song and then another artist picks it up? Just kind of going through that process and, what does it mean? So, yeah. So I will, let's see, check in. I don't think that he is going to be able to join us tonight. But I will go ahead. So there's a game I'll just play. I'll just pop up one of these questions and I'll change it whenever we're able to reschedule this episode. But there's a game that I always play with all of the guests, and it is called Dead in the Water. And it's a this or that type of game. So with this game, instead of saying which thing of the two that you like best, you would say which thing that you actually like the least, or the thing that you would throw away in the water. So with this, I would say loose rap. So Tylen, I know you probably got to have an answer for this. So loose rap or It's Whatever. For those of you who are watching, which song would you say of these two songs would you throw in the water if you had to choose one? Which one would it be? So I have my answer, but I'll save that. Curious to know Eric's answer as well, what his answer would be. But yeah. So loose rap or It's Whatever. If you had to pick one of those two songs to get rid of, which one would it be and why? Okay, so Tylen says that's disrespectful. I know. I was trying to pick two songs that he produced, and I was like, all right, well, two from the same album would be, ideal or pretty cool. But yeah, so I'm guessing that maybe you can't pick between the two. Again, I have a pick that I would throw away if I had to. but it's no disrespect to either song because I love both of the songs. But there is one that I would say edges out just a tad bit um, of those two songs, you know, if I had to pick. So he said that's tough. Yeah, it is. I would say that's definitely a tough decision. So, if you're watching, definitely feel free to weigh in on your thoughts on those two songs. And if you have not heard them, then shame on you. You got to go back and revisit that classic Aaliyah Red album, or the one that is self-titled that's called Aaliyah. But thank you all for tuning in. I'm so sorry. Looks like we won't be able to get Eric on tonight, but we'll still work him in some kind of way. And even if it's a special kind of one-off episode or something like that, we'll still work him in and still get him on to do the interview and also learn more about him as a cancer male as well. So again, thank you all for tuning in. I really, really appreciate it. Again, my sincere apologies that we didn't have Eric on tonight. So that is the flip side of going live, is that you get to see everything that happens in real time. I pre-recorded my first season, so whenever there was a scheduling conflict or something like that, no one saw it because we just scheduled for another day and then we recorded. But when it's live like this, unfortunately, sometimes these things do happen, but we will definitely pick up. And again, like I said, next week will be a recorded episode. That one won't be live, but we still will be doing live chats. So as you're watching the show and you see something that you want to call out live, I will be live chatting with everyone next Thursday. And again, we'll be touching on the female Geminis. So make sure y'all definitely tune in and subscribe. Be on the lookout for this rescheduled episode that we'll have. And again, thanks so much for tuning in, and catch us every Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. All right. Peace.